Hello, students. Today I'll be taking the topic circulatory system, which is an extension of the transport system. Today we'll be knowing three major areas in this topic, which are protective function of the blood, circulatory system generally in mammals, the various blood vessels, and the heart, which comprises this system. For function of the blood performs two basic functions, which are transportation of various substances like nutrients, oxygen, hormones. Two, protection of the body against diseases. And this is done in four ways: by antibody production, by neutralization, phagocyte action, clotting. For antibody protection, we have the lymphocytes, which produce antibodies in a large variety of proteins and act as in response to an antigen, which neutralizes, thus producing an immune response. Now, this can also be ensured by injecting small dose of weaker or dead pathogens into the body, which is a process called vaccination or immunization, which I know we've all taken at one point in our life. Another function or ways to protect our body against disease is neutralization. Now, the whole blood is produces antioxidants or antitoxins, which always neutralize toxins produced by pathogens. Now, as soon as pathogens find their way into our body system, in our blood, the blood recognizes these pathogens. And of course, these pathogens have toxins which they produce, and these are harmful chemicals. So our body responds by quickly producing antitoxins, which neutralizes these toxins before they cause any harm. Another one is through phagocyte action. Phagocytes are a type of white blood cells that use phagocytosis to engulf bacteria. They engulf bacteria, foreign particles, and also dying cells to protect the body. Now, phagocytosis is a specialized form of endocytosis where immune cells, which are the phagocytes, like macrophages and neutrophils, engulf and digest large particles. Now, these particles could be bacteria, dead cells, or debris, any form of unwanted particle or organ or anything. They do this to protect our body and maintain homeostasis. So it involves recognizing targets, engulfing them in a phagosome, and fusing with lysosome to digest these materials, unwanted materials. So the first process they go through is to recognize these foreign particles, and they bind to them using surface receptors. Then they engulf it. If you remember the way amoeba feeds, it feeds by this same process of engulfing. The phagocyte extends its membrane like a form like the membrane is like pseudopods around the particle and closes it into a membrane-bound vesicle called phagosome. Now, this phagosome merges with a lysosome, which contains digestive enzymes and acid, and the particle is destroyed through reactive oxygen species. Now, this degraded debris is expelled from the cell. The major function of all of this, beyond killing bacteria, is to remove dead cells and help activate the adaptive immune system by presenting antigens. Now, clotting is another function in defending, protecting us against diseases. In here, the blood platelet clots the blood to prevent germs the moment you have an injury on your skin or any part of your body, and of course you see blood oozing out. A process called clotting occurs immediately. So now this process is to prevent germs, is like a layering from entering the body, and also to prevent loss of blood. Imagine you have a cut, you have a bruise, and blood is just gushing out uncontrollably from that wound. That is very, very dangerous. So a process called clotting helps to prevent that loss. Now we can see here the mechanism of clotting. Now, when a blood vessel is damaged, of course, when there's a cut or there's a bruise, it means that there's a breakage in the blood vessel. It could be your artery or your vein. Is exposed to the air, and platelets in that bloodstream release an enzyme called thrombokinase. Now, this thrombokinase converts prothrombin, which is an inactive blood protein, to an enzyme called thrombin. So this thrombin now converts the soluble fibrinogen in the plasma to insoluble. So the fibrin, in the presence of calcium ions, is being converted from soluble fibrinogen to insoluble fibrin. Now, this thread-like fibrin forms a network or a mesh on that surface of that wound. The clot dries and to scab over the wound. There's a mini illustration here in our notes illustrating how clotting is being formed. Now, let's go to circulatory system in mammals. Now, generally, there are two major systems. We have the closed and open system, and the closed system, we'll find it in mammals, in birds, also in annelids. Now, for the open system, we find them in arthropods, we find them in insects. We also find them in some arthropods and some mollusks, in which for the closed system, it involves where the blood vessel, just like the artery, we divides the capillary and later join up with other vessels like veins they all form a network in which blood moves round the body. While the open system, the blood vessel always end up bathing the blood, the organs in which bathe into the spaces of the body cavity. Now, for the single circulatory system, the blood passes through the heart once in a complete movement round the body. Most of the time, it occurs when it's just a two-chambered heart, unlike the mammals and birds, which is four-chambered. Now, to achieve this in mammals, it has to be a double circulatory system where the blood goes round, does a complete cycle twice. That it goes round from the heart through the through all the blood vessels. It does it in twice to make it one complete cycle or movement. Now, this circulation gives rise to what we call pulmonary and systematic circulation. Now, let's talk about the blood vessels. The blood vessels comprises of the arteries, the arterioles, the vein, the venule, capillaries. Please take note of this list of vessels. It's very, very important to know how they function. Now, for the arteries,